Hello and welcome to another episode of the djproject Criterion Collection. And for this episode, you can kind of see it already, we're going to be talking about I Am Curious. This is another box set. This contains both films that are I Am Curious Yellow, released in 1967, and I Am Curious Blue, released in 1968. Both films were directed by Vilgot Sjöman. Actually, here are the individual titles there. Now, the construction of these films, first off, they're not meant to be, although Yellow is the most popular of the two because of the controversy it generated, especially in the United States, as to whether it's obscene or not. It's usually thought of as, okay, Yellow is the first, and because it came out first, Yellow is the first film and then Blue is the sequel. They're not meant to be thought of as sequel films, but Sjöman had used the term parallel films. That in a way makes sense. I mean, I just see it as two halves of a single whole. They both inform each other. The inspiration for it, in terms of the colors, those are the two colors of the Swedish national flag. And I don't know how intentional this is, but I find that yellow represent. Well, first off, I should explain what both films are. It's very much a where to begin with this? Okay, it covers the ongoing political, intellectual, and even sexual journey of this woman named Lena Nyman, played by Lena Nyman. This is one of those films where the boundaries between fact and fiction get blurred significantly. You're not really. I mean, there are some things it's probably safe to say to take at face value, but there are some other things that probably aren't worth taking at face value. So there's a lot of those kinds of blurs. There's a lot of meta reflections. There's every now and then there are shots of the film crew itself paying attention to the artifice. And Sjöman himself. First off, a little bit about Sjöman. Sjöman actually got his start working as an assistant for Ingmar Bergman, and in fact Bergman thought of him as his protege. I don't know if that still held, because Sjöman was also very intrigued by the French New Wave, the Nouvelle Vague, and particularly Godard. And there's a lot of Godard-like elements that are found, and especially comes through in I Am Curious. The reflexivity, the Brechtian interruptions that you find in Godard's films are very present here. And Bergman has been quoted as saying that he finds Godard a big bore, even though Godard has admired him and his films. And championed for them, so it's not a mutual relationship. So I don't know if it's because of that Godard influence that Bergman thought a little bit less of him. Although interestingly enough, Sjöman did eventually. I found out that he won in 2003 the Ingmar Bergman Award from the Swedish film industry. I believe that was the origins of that, but it was in recognition of his. It was a lifetime achievement, and so I don't know. It's a complicated relationship. Anyways, so the film covers politics, it covers sex. In fact, this is why it got some controversy about whether it was obscene or not, because while the scenes themselves they're fairly. There's nothing pornographic. You don't see full on. You don't see actual penetration. You just see actual genitalia, but nothing on the level of pornography in any respects. But so there's nothing really important, and it also doesn't purely serve Reprudian interests, and it does have cultural merit, especially since it was inspired in large part by the political climate, both within Sweden, and then beyond Sweden. Again, this was all shot, even though it was released in 67, 68. This was all shot in 66, and a lot of things were happening at that time, and things will continue to happen in the year of its release, and then even a little bit beyond that. So anyway, so that's generally what the films are. Now the split into two films. Yellow is they both cover the same events more or less. Yellow has its own self-contained story, which is probably why it's a little bit more popular and easier to watch than, say, Blue, because Blue has a bit more of an experimental structure in terms of time. It covers the events. If you think of Yellow as being one set of events, Blue covers everything before and after it. And it's that relationship, and also, I guess, thinking about the other different parts of the film, I think of the Yellow as representing perhaps, and again, I don't know if this was entirely intentional or not, but I think of Yellow as being the core of the film, because you really do get from that film the essence of what it's about in a less complicated way, whereas Blue is more of the support, the background. It emphasizes more of the structure, I guess. And that is also quite befitting because of the way the Swedish national flag looks. You have a blue background and a yellow cross. So there you go. Now, this film is a really good example for me personally. Remember, all these episodes are about my thoughts and impressions. So this is me with my own experience, my own history, my own interests, my own views, all of that. This is how I see these films. I see this as a really good example of why I do not take modern politics and modern liberalism seriously. And what do I mean by that? Well, throughout the films, films, I was trying to be clever with saying, I was trying to do like a Schrödinger clever thing, but I guess it didn't work. Anyways, Lena she's doing this out of the title of the film is I Am Curious, and so the motivator for Lena, well, what Lena does is she's in this perpetual research mode where she's constantly gathering data and information about basically about Swedish society. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What needs to be improved? She does have. She's attracted to. She's instantly attracted to certain ideas. One of them is this notion of a pure egalitarian society where there is no class divisions whatsoever. Yes, there are classes in Sweden, and Sweden is thought of as the nice socialist state. But even in Sweden, there are classes that you could see, and it's things like, why should a doctor be paid more than a baker? Should everybody get the same wages? So there's that attraction. There's also the nonviolence attraction, because you have Martin Luther King Jr., who shows up in the film. He wasn't exactly filmed for this, but this was actually interview footage that was incorporated into the film, but it was made to look like it was an interview. So the idea of nonviolence is another attractive thing, and that maybe that should be maybe the state should adopt measures of nonviolence. In fact, going so far as to completely reforming the Swedish military. And Sweden has maintained a neutral stance anyway. So now they take it even further and say that we're going to train our we're going to train our military to use nonviolent means to resolve conflicts. So you can kind of you can probably imagine why I don't take this very seriously, because it's well-meaning ideas. I mean, I like fairness. I like peace. I prefer those over violence. I don't like the mistreatment of human beings. I hate it when those debates are staged in that way, where if you don't agree, as soon as you claim virtue in your position, then if you are the opposite of that position, that means you are promoting vice. That's not it at all. It's all about whether the idea works and does it actually achieve what it's supposed to achieve. And so it's just little moments where it's either something she says or something that's said in the film or something that's done that just really makes me look at it and go, modern politics is a mess. Because to me it feels like, and this is probably where I get the most political. I'm sure there's other Actually, I know there's other films that are going to be coming up that will give me a chance to talk politics, but this one is very potent in politics. One of the things that I don't like about modern politics is that I feel like modern politics is a lot of it has no. I feel as if there's no real core principles, or if there are, they're just kind of vague and flimsy, and then it allows you to take in pretty much anything and everything that seems to fit your way. In other words, there's no real rhyme or reason to it. It's just basically you react to this and you like this, and then it's just a series of reactions that somehow may form a cohesive whole, but maybe not. And sometimes, I think the other thing that puts me off is that there's always this urgency drive to resolving a situation, and it's often fueled by emotion, and then you can create a situation where the cure is worse than the disease, and you're back to square one, but yet you still adhere to it because you believe that that's the right thing. Politics becoming religion is something that really, really rubs me the wrong way. The politics is not about religion. I mean, yes, you can, as far as the dictionary definition, yes, you can have a system of beliefs that describe the state of the world, and yes, you can blend it. You can make politics into a religion. I just think it's bad religion, because politics. Now, I haven't got a chance to look at the dictionary definition, but I like to think that politics, what makes up politics, is conflict, and it's disagreement, and it's the fact that disagreement is there. You have politics. You have one side you have one faction that advocates this. You have another faction advocating that. You have another faction advocating something completely different. You have another faction that's a weird amalgamation of other things, and so it's all these factions, and I would also say individuals too, especially individuals, that just can't seem to agree on something, and you want to turn that into a religion. Basically, you make conflict as the foundation of your living, which sounds right up Cousin Takis's alley. So yeah, it's all about this. Well, of course, he would say that it's about the struggle, but and actually that is a very Hegel idea, which was something I didn't call this a minor addendum to the Last Temptation of Christ rant that I jokingly call it. The notion of struggle being the definition of existence. That's a carryover from Marx, and Marx got that from Hegel, when the concept is the master-slave relationship. The slave derives its definition by its relationship to its master and vice versa. So if you do anything to sever that relationship, you also negate essentially you negate the existence of both parties. So there is a mutual benefit as well. And maybe that, and going back to the idea of politics as religion, maybe that's the idea. The problem is that usually the proponents of this idea that politics is everything, it's a particular kind of politics. It's a particular set of doctrines, if you will, or dogmas, and that if you don't believe in that, then you're kicked out. And which I definitely have a problem with that. I mean, it's one thing to say that having everything be dictated by politics is one thing, but to have everything be dictated by a particular set of political ideals or a particular set of political beliefs is also really problematic, especially when it's all about control and so on. Yeah. So yeah, what more can I say? Well, actually, I'll give you an example of from the film itself and actually kind of one of my favorite little moments, and it has absolutely nothing to do with sex. There's a scene where a guy he's in an army uniform, or it looks like an army uniform, but I'm not sure if he's really in the army or it's made to look like it or something. I don't know what it is, but he's standing outside of the palace, and he has a collection jar and a sign that basically says Sweden needs an A-bomb. And his rationale for it was that if you want to maintain because Sweden has this tradition of maintaining neutrality in the case of war, you need some kind of deterrent to keep them in the neutral stance. So maybe what they need is they need to be matched with other nations that are going to go to war. And since the highest instrument highest weapon is used in this conflict or nuclear weapons, maybe Sweden should have one. And then this creates, you can imagine this creates a plethora of reactions. One of them was a very polite decline. It's like, no, I don't really believe that. And the guy's like, okay, that's fine. So, or like, what do you mean by that? And then he explains his position. Another instances are two guys who clearly do not like the idea at all, who doesn't like nuclear weapons and wants peace, and they say, I'm going to give you, and to the guy, I'm going to put a peace button in your collection jar. And the guy's like, all right, fine. And then another guy goes, and I'm going to put a ban the bomb button in your collection jar. All right, because we don't like your idea. All right, and it's that particular section. It's that belaboring the point. It's insisting that it's not just merely stating a position. It's stating a position enough times so that you either end up provoking a violent reaction out of the other guy, or the other guy just gets sick of you hearing this. It's like, all right, fine, you got a point, I accept it, and then. And in other words, it's a coercive way to win over hearts and minds, and I take issue to that. If someone's trying to coerce me into a position, that will make me resist it even more. So, object lesson to any and all: if you want me to reconsider a position or to think differently, don't be coercive with me. I'm very much like a cat. If I find a spot that's comfortable, I will go there, and I will do pretty much whatever I please. And you don't, just like a cat will claw you to bits if you try to pick him up, or if he doesn't want to, or if you scratch him in places that he doesn't want to, or anything of the sort, anything to kind of disturb his little groove, he'll take issue. But if you're not coercive, then the cat will. If you see that you're pretty cool, then the cat will notice this and then come over your way and sit on your lap and sit on your face or something, whatever. remember the internet is full of cats, and so you know all the cat jokes. But anyways, so yeah, don't force me, don't browbeat a position into me, and don't try to coerce me, don't try to blackmail me, don't try to say that, oh, you're not virtuous enough, oh, you're not really this if you don't believe that. I will explain why I believe in something to the best of my abilities. I will be more than happy to explain why I hold this view, why I think this doesn't work, and so on. I'll be glad to say this. If it turns into a fist fight, whether it's an actual fist fight, I don't think it will actually turn into a fist fight, but if it turns into the verbal equivalent of a fist fight, then I have no business doing it, because then it becomes more about the fight rather than actually having any kind of engaging in meaningful conversation, which means being able to hear things that you disagree with. And in a way, this is why I have something like this. I mean, I don't agree with everything in this film. I don't. So then the question is, well, why do you have it? Well, again, just like with Last Temptation of Christ, I feel that having a few things where you don't necessarily agree with all of them, it helps you to understand your own positions better. It helps you to understand why you believe in things that you do, why you have the views that you have. And really, all my views are not that radical. It's not like I don't even want to get into like what is considered radical and stuff. And also, radical is an overused word. It's usually used to describe any kind of position that is not favorable at all or goes against the norm. But I will admit that it may come off as strong, but I don't think that it's totally radical. Like I said, the convenient label I call myself is classical liberal, and that is a carryover from the English political philosophical positions that you find in Thomas Hobbes and John Locke and Adam Smith. That's where much of it came from. The Orthodox Christianity definitely informs it as well, and I figured that the combination of both has a pretty much covers everything I feel in a very fair way, not just simply to me, but I think to everybody. This is not just something that, oh, well, I like this and I know it's good. I know I'm going to benefit, and screw everybody else. No, this is. I really do try to think about other people as well. This is not a self-centered exercise. So, at any rate, so, I mean, that's really it. That's really kind of what. So you can imagine a film like the films like I Am Curious Yellow, I Am Curious Blue. Well, it will definitely say a lot of things that are, I don't necessarily agree with. But of course, this is not all just about politics. There's also like I said before, it's very reflective of Godard. So there's a lot of reflexivity. You get little windows into the filmmaking process, and so there's that as well. So I would say that if you like Godard, you'll definitely like these films. If you enjoy politics, I don't think it shouldn't entirely matter what the position is. You'll find it engaging, and also, I mean, and like I said, I look at this and it tells me that I can't take modern liberalism seriously, and why I don't take it seriously. But someone else will watch this and is like, yeah, that says exactly what I feel, and I understand that people react to films in different ways. I feel that with watching a lot of films, you learn more about yourself than you do the films that you watch. Which is why I think reviews end up being kind of solipsistic in some respects, even if they are pointing out to objective facets. It ends up being more or less a reflection of the viewer. So, but at any rate, I would say that if you have an interest in politics and if you have an interest in adventurous filmmaking a la Godard, then it's definitely worth checking out. Yes, there was the contentions on obscene. I yes, there's sex in it, but again, it's not pornographic. Not just in the legal definition, but there's nothing in it that is that that on you. I mean, it's mainly just it's seeing genitalia and there's touching of genitalia. That's really it. You don't see full on penetration or anything of that sort. But so yeah, I mean that's. I am curious, and until next time, take care.